Well, welcome back to Outsiders. The BBC has named a biological man, is there any other kind, as one of this year's most inspiring women. How very 2024. Honestly, when I heard the news, I mostly felt relief. Relief that the national broadcaster's list of 100 top women only contained one biological man. The BBC decided to compile a list of the world's 100 most inspiring females. Now, with 4 billion women to choose from, I can only imagine how rigorous the selection process must have been. It turns out, well, it wasn't that rigorous. When culling 4 billion women into a list of just 100, a Y chromosome seems to have slipped through. The last remaining spot went to transgendered Colombian scientist Luis Baptiste, who changed his name to Bridget when he started identifying as a woman at the age of 35. Why Bridget? Apparently Lewis had a thing for Brigitte Bardot and wanted to become her, which, if true, suggests the BBC should have named Brigitte Bardot as one of the most inspiring women, at least for Lewis, but I digress. Having transformed himself into Brigitte Baptiste, the Colombian scientist began studying nature and concluded there is nothing more queer than nature. I would argue there's nothing more queer than the BBC, but for the sake of the argument, let's go with Baptiste on this one. Baptiste has become famous for using, and again I'm quoting, a queer lens to analyse landscapes and species. Among other things, Baptiste discovered transsexual palm trees. Now, you should be able to see where this is going. If palm trees can be transsexual, then we can be too. God help us if Baptiste ever gets around to studying polar bears. They sometimes eat their young. It's an interesting thing watching Baptiste give TED Talks about the diversity of nature in order to argue that his transition to female is just adding to the rich tapestry of diversity we see all around us. In a 2013 speech, Baptiste implied, for instance, that since there are thousands of species of frogs, of course there should be more than just 2 genders among human beings.
Y su defensa, digamos, de la diferencia construida. Y eso claramente porque la naturaleza da lugar a toda esa diversidad previamente. En la naturaleza no hay comportamientos.
I love this. Having established there's no right or wrong in nature, Baptiste spends 15 minutes telling the audience the right way to think about transgenderism, which is not inspiring, but it is kind of sneaky. Here's a taste of Baptiste's logic.
Simplemente que en la naturaleza los géneros son infinitos. Hay toda clase de expresiones de género y hay toda clase de combinaciones de sexualidad. Es lo más natural que hay. Lo que no es natural es vestirse, comer con cuchara, prender el radio y tener cultura.
So the argument is that nature is natural and therefore provides us with a guide as to how we should all be. Culture and boundaries and morality, that's all unnatural. Of course, Baptiste doesn't explain how puberty blockers, a lifetime of hormone therapy, and an operation in which one's penis and testicles are removed so a fake vagina can be constructed is, natural. It should be obvious to everyone, at least everyone with the brain the size of a tadpole, that if you're going to use nature as your blueprint for how humans should behave, you're going to have to be very, very selective indeed. Trust me, I used to own a dog. Our culture used to believe that we were made in the likeness of God, and so naturally we looked up for inspiration. King David, who once ruled the piece of Middle East dirt the entire world is now fighting over, once mused, "What are human beings? God's made them a little lower than the angels and put them above everything else." That understanding of our place in the world guided Western thought for 3,000 years. If we have, as previous generations believed, a Heavenly Father, then we didn't have Mother Nature. Nature is more like a distant, often dysfunctional cousin. The reason we use cutlery is because we're not animals. The reason we wear clothes is because we're not animals. And the reason we create boundaries delineating right from wrong, healthy from unhealthy, ought from ought not, is because we are in nature, but we're also above nature. But about 5 minutes ago, we decided as a culture to erase God from the horizon. And so now we no longer have anywhere to look but down. How should we live our lives? I don't know. Let's go and see what's happening in the garden. We're now reduced to observing nature for ideas on who we are, and the result is that blokes have become the most important women. Thanks, nature. And thanks, BBC. Brigitte Baptiste is most certainly not one of the world's most inspiring women. Baptiste is, however, a timely reminder of where we'll all end up if our culture maintains its current course.